And because I'm independent of wealthy donors, I'll be able to close the loopholes and giveaways that bloat our budget. And because I'm independent of Wall Street, I'll be able to rescue debtors instead of the banks during the next financial crisis. And because I'm independent of big polluters, I'll be able to clean up our soil, our water, our air, and protect our Purple Mountain's majesty. And because I'm independent of corporations, I'll be able to unravel the corporate capture of our regulatory agencies. And because I'm independent of both political parties, I'll be able to enact bold policies that are outside of the partisan conversation. Let me be clear, though. Being independent of the two political parties does not mean making them my enemy. Dogmatic opposition is just as much a form of dependency as dogmatic loyalty. As president, I'm going to work with officials from both parties who want to join me in serving our nation rather than exploiting and searching for partisan political advantage. Every president enters office promising to unite the nation and to work with people from the other party across the aisle. None of them ever does it. They can't. They're already chosen a side. Well, I'm not going to have that problem. I'm going to build coalitions from both sides of the aisle. What that means is that members of Congress will start working together across party lines in ways that we've barely seen for a generation. My uncle, Senator Edward Kennedy, my Uncle Teddy, has his name on more pieces of legislation than any senator in the United States history. He did that, he accomplished that because of his capacity to reach across the aisle. When during weekends at Cape Cod, my uncle would bring home people who were his political rivals, who were Orrin Hatch, John Kasich, Harry Byrd, people who were terrible, for example, on my issue, the environment. I looked at those people and I saw Darth Vader. And I would say to Teddy, why are you making these friendships? And he said, because I have a lot of common ground with them. They know the difficulties of living like a politician. And he always said to me, as much as I love our country, they love our country the same. We all believe in our country. We need to be able to talk to each other. And that allowed him to become the most productive senator in United States history. I want to do the same thing with my presidency. And I'm going to tell you that because of that, it's going to be very hard for people to tell whether my administration is left or right. Is it right-wing to support small farms? Is it right or left to pull our nation back from the brink of a war with Russia? Is it right or left to implement a tamper-proof election system that also guarantees that everyone has a right to vote?
There you go, election integrity. I mean, he hits all the right notes, man.
As long as we're locked in these habitual debates, the two parties are often blind to common sense solutions. The formula has left them unable to govern. Practically every year we do what we did 2 weeks ago or a week ago, which has come this far from defaulting on a government shutdown. And that's just the most obvious example of the paralysis of the two-party system. The system runs on inertia, year after year, decade after decade. It's like a runaway bus filled with teenagers fighting about who should take the wheel, and they ultimately learn that whoever the driver is, they're all obeying a GPS with a program that's written by lobbyists and corrupt corporate insiders.
This is going to resonate, man. This is resonating with a lot of people.
I'm not going to just take the wheel. I'm going to reboot the GPS. And do you know,
Look at that. Look
you
how many
know
people
who's
are
going to
there.
set the new destination? You are. Yeah. Because as I've traveled this country, I've listened to you, and I know what your hopes are for the future, and I know your idealism. And together we're going to set the GPS toward the promised land, the promise that Jonathan Winthrop gave us, the great Puritan leader in 1630, when he stood on the deck of the sloop Arbella and said, and pointed to the verdant landscapes that no European had ever seen. And he said, we're going to build here a promised land, a city on a hill, a lamp to all the other nations in the world, an exemplary nation. And we came close to fulfilling that destiny in the years after World War II. You know, when the king and queen look over the balustrades of their castle and they see all of their subjects fighting each other, they go back to the banquet room and they pop champagne corks, as they know as long as we're all feuding with each other, then nobody's coming over the castle walls. So this hatred we have for each other is orchestrated. And what my job is during this campaign and then during my presidency is to unify Americans. And then we're all going to go over the castle wall together.
This message is resonating.
And we're going to...
It's resonating. There's probably a mix of
And we're gonna
Republicans
take
and
back our
Democrats
country.
in there, and people that are just disaffected.
No,
He's the new Trump.
Moses, during the end of his life,
He's the new Trump of 16.
he had brought the Jewish people from slavery in Egypt across the Red Sea, promising them they would get to a promised land. But 40 years later, he was 120 years old, and they had not found the promised land. And the Jewish people were angry at him. And they said to him, why did you bring us out of Egypt? We were better off in Egypt. He went to God, Moses went to God and said they're going to stone me. And God took him up to the top of the mountain, and he let him look over the river Jordan. And he showed him the land of Canaan, the promised land. And he said, you can't lead them there. They need to get there on their own, but you've brought them up to the edge. But the people need to get there on their own. And he warned them, they can't waver from left or the right. They have to go forward. Martin Luther King, the night before he died, recalled that without mentioning the story. But he said to the people, I've been to the mountaintop.
And I've
I've
seen
seen
the
the
promised
promised
land.
I know what it looks like. And I may not get there with you, but you're going to get
Neither did
there.
Moses.
But you have to get there yourselves. The people have to decide to take back the power in this country.
Right on. Right on.
And I, of course, am no Moses or no Martin Luther King. And I am part of a movement where we are determined as the American people to go back and reach that promised land again. And I do know what it looks like because I've had glimpses of it during my lifetime. I know it's an America with a prosperous middle class where if you work hard, if you play by the rules, you can finance a home, you can raise a family, you can take a summer vacation, you can put something aside for your retirement. I know that it's a place where we don't have to choose between economic prosperity and environmental protection. I know it's a place where our children will have the same opportunities for dignity and enrichment and prosperity and good health as the communities that our parents gave us. I know it's a place where every American enjoys the right to vote and everybody has absolute faith that our electoral system has integrity and it's the best in the world. I know it's a place with incorruptible regulatory agencies. When I was a kid, the FDA, the CIA, or the FDA, the EPA, the NIH,
The NFL.
were the gold standard regulatory agencies in the world. The other nations in Europe and Latin America based their regulations on what our regulatory agencies said. They were absolutely incorruptible. They were gold standard science. I know that that promised land is a place
What's up, Aiden?
which is a bastion for the rights that are enshrined in our Constitution. And I know that that promised land is a place where America is a moral authority around the world, that people look to us for leadership, that it's a place that promotes peace instead of war. And I know that America is possible when we declare independence from the deadlocked party establishment.
Don't worry, Aiden. I'm still wearing my DeSantis shirt. But this is good. He's dead on right. Look at him, and he even looks like
That
his
is the America that's possible when we declare independence from the war machine that devours $1 trillion a year. That's the America that is only possible when we stop fighting each other and go over the fortress wall. And that's the America that I'm going to serve when I become President of the United States.
Is he coming out strong
Now,
for Israel? This is a question. The
The
Israel
media pundits are going to tell you that we don't have any chance.
is top of the
They've
list.
given me a couple of first names. One of them is long shot candidate. And they say my impact is only going to draw
What's up,
votes
Wilmar?
from the other
Welcome back.
candidates. The Democrats are frightened that I'm going to spoil the election for President Biden.
It depends on who the Republicans
And-
put up, though. The
Republicans are frightened that I'm going to spoil it for President Trump.
Yes, you will. Let me tell you, if we put up
The
Trump,
truth is, they're both right.
notice he didn't say DeSantis. Because if we put up DeSantis, he's going to siphon votes from Biden. If we put up Trump,
My
he's going to
intention
siphon
is
votes
to-
from Trump. Trust
to
me.
spoil it for both of them.
Trust me. He's
And only that inside the Beltway myopia deludes them into thinking that we have no chance of winning.
he does have a chance of
I
winning,
have
by the
seen
way.
the polls
He does. He
That
does.
they won't show you. I've sat at the kitchen tables that they don't bother to visit. I've shaken hands with tens of thousands of invigorated Americans over the past 6 months who are excited about a change. And I can tell you, our campaign has ignited a movement that has been smoldering for years, a movement to reclaim democracy, to resurrect the promise of our republic, the promised land. And that's the real reason that the party elites in Washington and the insiders are terrified of my candidacy. They recognize an authentic challenge to their power when they see one. There have been anti-establishment candidates before, but none of them who understands actually how to get the job done. Unlike President Trump, I've been fighting corporate corruption and suing government agencies for 40 years. I know how they work, and I know how to clean them up. And unlike any president since 1963, I will stand up to the military-industrial complex.
Yeah, that's a big deal right there, man. People don't
I
like that
will cash in the
military-industrial
peace
complex.
dividend.
No, they don't.
And I'll bring our troops home with honor. I'll rebuild America's strength from the inside out. What really terrifies the elites, though, is not me. It's what I represent, a populist movement that defies left-right division. I am merely the bowsprit of a ship that is going to cut through the armadas of corruption, of secrecy, of lies. And except for the small minority of public officials who are actually corrupt, I'm going to tell you this secret. I am no enemy to the people of the two-party establishment, because guess what? They don't believe in it anymore either. They don't believe their own posturing. They don't believe their
He's
own
right about
rhetoric.
that.
That's why so many public figures, Democrats and Republicans, have told me quietly, I can't support you publicly, but I really hope you win. And
Yeah. Can't support a public because they're
they
cowards.
do want liberation
Or they
from
can't
the
go outside their
system
party,
that
they
has
get in
captured
trouble.
them. And isn't that ultimately what we all want? Liberation from a system that robs us of our wealth, our health, our hope, our patriotism, our ideals, our freedoms, and ultimately our sense of ourselves as a good and capable people. Is that kind of freedom possible? Is healing our divided nation possible? If we wait for someone else to liberate us and unite us, no, then it's not possible. It becomes possible when we decide to take action ourselves. People ask me, can you win? And I want to turn that question back on you.
Like
Will our movement win?
Yeah. He's got a populist thing going on, guys. He does. Lots of
Can
people
this
like
movement
RFK,
restore
Robert Kennedy Jr.
democracy, health, prosperity, and freedom? I'm not asking you to make a prediction. I'm asking you to make a choice. It's going to happen if you choose for it to happen. Democracy doesn't come about as a gift from oppressive elites and authorities when they finally relent. Democracy comes when people choose to exercise their power. And so I'm asking you today to join me in exercising the sovereign choice of a democratic people. Are we ready to win? Are we ready to win? And that's what a new Declaration of Independence sounds like. Remember this moment. We have a year and 1 month until the election. Let's go take back our country. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you, baby.
Dennis wants us to go ahead.
Cheryl!
Okay.
Cheryl! Yes, he's
Hey.
married to Larry David's wife. Did you know that?
I love you, man.
He's married to Cheryl Hines,
Yeah,
Larry David's wife.
let's do a hands up. You too.
Pretty good. And look, what a beautiful couple they are. They really are. Look at them. Look at them. They're Kennedys, man. They're Kennedys, and he looks just like his dad. Yeah, he has that voice thing, but you know what? All great men walk with a limp. Just remember that. All great men have some little quirk or some little thing they have to overcome. And it usually makes them stronger.
Ladies
but-
and gentlemen, Dennis Kucinich.
I'll skip Kucinich. Why do you have to bring up? Was that Del
All
Bigtree?
right, we're not done with this program
Yes,
yet.
we are.
Look
All
on
right.
the screen
Okay, that's
if
enough.
you're going to make a
Okay.
contribution.
God,
Get that
bringing
QR
Dennis-
code, make it.
bringing Dennis
We
Kucinich
are also
up.
asking you to go to Kennedy24.com to sign up now if you haven't already
Okay,
done
all right,
that.
Okay. So there you have it. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is running for president as an independent. Okay. And yes, I'm wearing my DeSantis shirt today. You know, I've got a Kennedy shirt and I've got a DeSantis shirt. Kennedy is absolutely fantastic on a lot of things. And, you know, you'll hear people go, oh, well, you know, Kennedy is good on this, but I don't really know about that. And then, but, you know, I don't want to get in any bickering matches with people, okay? I know this is hard to believe, but yeah, it's draining. It's draining. Is it not draining to get into bickering matches with people? That's why I tell you, when I get off of a Twitter detox, it's like the most wonderful thing, because the constant back and forth and the need to tell somebody you must take sides on this, or to think that if I'm going to stand against that, or if I'm going to be with this person, then I have to take sides on this. And then you see a bunch of people that will they'll adjust their views, or they will kind of change what they say in order to fit the candidate they support. Like Trump, for instance. Like they'll say they're against the vaccine, but then they'll side with a candidate that is all about the vaccine. Okay? And Kennedy, what he's doing here is he's offering another solution to this. And he is giving people in the middle an option, or people that don't want to go along with it anymore, an option. I mean, you hear him and how he's talking about, being tired of being controlled by the media, where the media is basically telling you what you're supposed to be angry about. You know what I mean? And this can be all different kinds of media. It can be from a Telegram channel to news media, podcasts. Podcasts are really the place where people are getting their info from, little live streams like this. But you have these podcast hosts that just, they claim to be against the establishment, but they're basically toting their line as well. And you can kind of tell by, who listens to Fox News by what they believe. And I mean, Fox News is just a never-ending toilet. It's a stream of negativity, and a lot of stuff on the internet is a nonstop stream of negativity. But what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is offering is saying, hey, look, there's a lot of this going on, a lot of this anger and angst towards each other, and it's really being driven by people in media, and those people and whoever their corporate overlords are, okay? And when he taught, which is true, I mean, does that not appeal to everybody? I mean, do you not feel that way? I mean, you could, and I know damn it, this chair it keeps tilting back and forth. All right, I'm gonna try to put a little thing on it, and guess what my cats did this morning? There we go. Okay. All right, that's better. My cats, we have a Halloween thing set up on our table because we are heathens who decorate for Halloween and listen to Halloween music. I know that's probably sending us directly to hell, but it's something that makes my wife happy. So then it makes me happy. But what's going to happen with, everybody is tired of being driven to be against each other by media, and they're corporate overlords. Also, Kennedy is somebody who understands what's going on with the pharmaceutical industry and with these different agencies and the power and control that they yield and the corruption within. And, I think there's just as much corruption that needs to be rooted out in the NFL today with what they're doing, because with the persistence of gambling, now you've got that spark of corruption, okay, that's in there, that can influence games, that can influence different things. Well, we see that, the corruption within these agencies, meaning when it comes to the CDC, okay, and when it comes to the FDA, these companies are actually being paid off legally by the people that they're supposed to be regulating, okay? And this in turn creates a major problem. And Kennedy understands this. Now, let me tell you what is going to happen here, because he's running. Look, Kennedy is running as an independent, all right? And I'm going to have a Twitter space at 3 o'clock. So jump on. I haven't had a Twitter space in a while. So jump on and talk on that. But it's happening, and he is going to appeal to a large amount of people. Okay? And, you know, whether you like it or not, or whether you're programmed to say, like, look, I'm a DeSantis guy, I can't be for Kennedy. And then you'll have people that didn't have a problem with Kennedy 5 months ago, but now all of a sudden they're going to have a problem with you because you don't have a problem with Kennedy. And then you're going to have, well, don't you see that this is going to drive votes away from the candidate we want? We can't have Biden again. Look, he clocked out at 1 o'clock today. And yet these horrible, this horrible attack on Israel and this war that has started over there, this is going to be, look, this is now the world we live in. Okay. I said this, that something was going to happen. Okay, because things happen that change the entire landscape. Okay, and usually, unfortunately, it is a massive tragedy, and something, oh boy, as divisive as this. But you have basically Israel's 9/11. And here, I said this back in July 29th. Watch, some type of earth-changing event will happen between now and January that will reveal the true strength and character of Ron DeSantis to all America. It will shift everything in his favor as the whole country watches him handle it with the appearance of great ease. Okay, I was thinking like along the lines of hurricane, but I thought terrorist attack possibly too. But you know, this is now the reality we live in, and there is now a war going on. Israel is not going to take this sitting down. They're going to go at this hard. And DeSantis is there saying that they should. Now, I didn't get Kennedy's take on this because I only joined it later. But if any of you know, where does Kennedy stand on supporting Israel and whatever they do in this war to go after the people that attack them? Because you can't live like that. You can't just, could you imagine just living in the, think about sneak attacks coming? And okay, look, if there is a political difference here, which this, by the way, the thing between the Israelis and the people that live, I'm trying not to use different buzzwords because there's so many, but the people, that Gaza Strip is ancient Philistia, okay? That's where the Philistines used to launch raids against ancient Israel. And by the way, that's the promised land that God gave to the descendants of Jacob and split it amongst them. And you heard him talk about Moses. You know, Moses didn't make it to the promised land. You know, I heard that reference, but you know, everything now is going to be in the context of what is happening in Israel. Okay? And you've seen the pictures, you the woman getting kidnapped, the fact that it was just a surprise attack, like a Pearl Harbor type, you know, if they got political differences and there's but there's no like formal declaration of war, and then we meet on the battlefield, we send our men to meet the battlefield, like Goliath standing down there going, send down your best, you know, and then all the Israelites were scared to death of Goliath. But, you know, they came down on the battlefield. But there's also examples in the Bible of this happening, of raiders coming in the middle of the night, attacking in camps, attacking people, taking women and children. And, you know, but that's something that is you know, and doing it to civilians, I mean, that's dishonorable. Right? That's, to say it the lightest. I mean, that's not like legitimate war. It's like surprise attacks where you go after civilians. And then, you know, people, and you know, you're going to hear people that you're surprised to hear them like making excuses and going, well, you know, the Israelis did this, and you know, they shouldn't have been over there anyway, or this and that, and you know, just get ready for it, because you're going to hear people that you didn't know harbored those feelings suddenly come out with those feelings, because there is a group of people that are on the right that are not big fans of Israel, okay? And a lot of them are Trump supporters. I'm not saying that Trump obviously, he gave the Golan Heights to Israel. He recognized Jerusalem as the capital. He recognized the Golan Heights, okay? Which was a highly disputed area there, okay? And but there are a lot of people that are anti-Israel that do very much like Trump, okay? And you know, you're going to hear from a lot of those, but how anybody could justify or defend a sneak attack like this. So you had Ron DeSantis, who came out, and here's what he had to say the day of the attacks.
Stands with Israel against the terrorist attack that is being perpetrated by Hamas, who is backed by Iran and unfortunately funded by this American president with what he's done to Iran. It's a disgrace, and we all need to be united to say to Israel, not only do they have a right to defend themselves, they have a duty to respond to these terrorists with overwhelming force. And they'll have my support 100% as the next president of the United States. You can take that. I just want to say,
and this,
today
you know,
America,
and this is something that Kennedy is going to have a problem. Now look at him on this megaphone here. You know, I hope you guys all saw this and saw. I mean, look at him on this megaphone here. I mean, there is a leader there. You know, there's a guy that he's going to have your back, and he said it very clearly that he encourages Israel to respond, and to respond very, very heavily, very strongly, meaning lots of casualties. And I don't know if Kennedy has said this. I mean, he's talking about ending wars, but right now, I mean, ending wars would be very nice. Yes. The question is how you do it. That's the trick. Because, you know, Trump thought he could end conflicts just by loud, all caps, obnoxious tweets, and then problem solved. Obama thought he could solve everything through a powwow. He would have a summit. Like, if there was inflation, he'd have a summit. If there's a healthcare thing, he would have a summit. If there was, you know, some kind of violence going on, he would have a summit. If there's terrorism, he would have a summit. And then the summit would come, and he would bring in all the experts from all the land, all the fruited plain would come and gather at the White House with Obama, and Biden was there, of course. And then after that summit, problem solved. Go about your lives now. We had a summit, done. Okay? That's kind of how Trump thought about things. Trump is like, okay, that we have, you know, Antifa is burning down the country. What do? I tweet really big, all caps, law and order, law and order, law and order. Problem solved, done. Well, did either of these are really ways that, you know, lazy people are? Because I think both Obama and Trump are lazy to a degree. Look, I'm lazy. I can spot laziness, all right? Well, how did they get there to where they are with being lazy? Well, you can be lazy and you can be driven in some things and then lazy in other things like details. Okay? It's really well known, you know, Trump's first wife, Ivana, was really the brains behind his business and his success. So so there's DeSantis on the megaphone declaring that Israel has every right to and encouraging them to defend himself and saying he'll have their back. Now, I don't know if Kennedy said the same thing, but I don't know if Kennedy said the same thing. But this election is going to come down to this guy, Chris Lasavita. He is a former Jeb Bush worker. He's a top person in the Trump campaign. The Trump campaign is surrounded by Jeb Bush people. They've got all sorts of establishment people on, but they accuse DeSantis of being the establishment guy. Oh, look, Nick Fuentes is trending. But gee, I wonder why. All right, look, I mean, the people that you're going to see and you're going to hear sounding like the Jihad Caucus in Congress, the Democrats that support Hamas in Congress, you're going to hear people on the right talking just like that. And they all have one thing in common. They back Trump over DeSantis or they don't back DeSantis, okay? The anti-Israel people are not with DeSantis, all right? They're not. Yeah, look at this. Like this guy, I'm not going to get too much into this, but you know, all right, whatever. I don't really. I'm not trying to get all into talking about Fuentes and that. If you want to just look into that, but just I'm just telling you that you're going to see some people that are very not supportive of Israel, and they're going to be on the right. And just ask yourself, who do they all support for president? And that should tell you a lot.
Short circuit any type of talks to reimpose the strongest sanctions across the board, including on their energy industry. Ultimately, if you starve them of cash, they're going to be limited in what they're going to be able to do around the world. I do think that if you go over to Israel, I mean, I know you've been there. If you talk to people like Prime Minister Netanyahu, if you ask them, what are your top 3 issues you got to deal with? He would say number 1 is Iran, number 2 is Iran, and number 3 is Iran. So I think they're very mindful, like Hamas was just the tool and the instrument, but ultimately this was an attack by the Iranians. And if the Iranians could push a button and wipe Israel off the map, they would do that. That's what they want to do. They're very honest about that. So U.S. policy under both Biden and Obama, they just had rose-colored glasses with respect to Iran. I think there was ideology involved. Let's just cut that now, turn the screws on them, and that'll benefit the United States, it'll benefit Israel, and it'll benefit our allies throughout the world.
You know, he said this for years too, and because Iran, the Ayatollah, okay? You have the Ayatollah Khomeini, and now you've got his successor, Ayatollah Khomeini. And, you know, but he's basically just like the other guy, only worse. And Khomeini is the guy who actually held hostages. If you look up the Iranian hostage crisis of 1980, they had hostages over there. When the mullahs took over, they ran off the Shah because Jimmy Carter didn't help the Shah. He allowed that to happen, very weak. And then that's when the Iranian Revolution happened in like 79, 80. And they've been dominated by strict Islamic Sharia law ever since. And more importantly to Israel, they've been dominated by people that want to see Israel wiped off the map. So, you know, you think about it, if you have a mortal enemy that's just like 2 states over, like what if Nebraska wanted to just wipe Florida off the map? And they had crazy people that were running the place, and they had a big military buildup, and they were getting funded from all sorts of places, and they were constantly saying that they wanted to wipe Florida off the map, and they were in Nebraska. I mean, and they were firing rockets over there all the time. And so, I mean, that's kind of what you see over there. But in 1980, there was this hostage crisis, and the media every day would have a countdown. Like, it's been 42 days and the hostages are still there. It's been 72 days of the hostage crisis. And that's when Reagan was running for president and beat Carter. And then the days after Reagan became president, they released the hostages. Now, there's more to this than there is more to this. And I remember I read the Reagan diaries, and there was more to the relationship between Carter and Begin was the prime minister of Israel at the time. But the thing is this whole hostage crisis was at the center of attention leading up to this election. All right. And had a big impact on it. And I do like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on a lot of things. Now, with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., let me tell you, he will hurt. If we put up Trump, Kennedy will siphon votes from Trump. If we put up DeSantis, Kennedy will siphon votes from Biden. He'll siphon votes from Biden either way, but he'll siphon more votes from Trump because there's a lot of people that if DeSantis isn't the nominee or Trump's the nominee, they are not ever voting for Trump again for myriad reasons. Okay? He's alienated a lot of people, whether you want to believe it or not. You can say, oh, well, DeSantis' people alienated people. Yeah, that may be so. But Trump himself personally has alienated a lot of people. All right? DeSantis really, just by existing and declaring his run and then pointing out Trump's flaws and the promises he didn't keep, if that's gonna a horrible thing to alienate the base, then so be it, because that's ridiculous. But Trump himself has been attacking Ron DeSantis nonstop, lying about him. His surrogate's been lying about him, and he's had this obsession towards him this whole time, and that's turned off a lot of people. Kennedy will take more votes away from Trump, okay, if he's the nominee, believe me. But this, the Israel situation is going to be at the center of all this. And there's DeSantis at church. There we go. He goes to church with his family. Yeah, go figure. There he is. All right, there he is in Iowa. He's rocking it in Iowa. Read Javier's recent piece about how DeSantis he is going through Iowa, 68 out of 99 counties. He is fighting for this. Now, Kennedy is not in a primary right now. He's just basically saying, I'm running as an independent. I'm not going to run as a Democrat. I'm running as an independent. Yeah, those tweets really worked out. Okay, and the talks with Israel. Here's DeSantis as a congressman.
War against Hamas. Speaker, I rise in defense of Israel and their defensive war against Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organization. It's an arm of the Muslim Brotherhood. Its reason for existence is to destroy Israel, and Hamas desires a second Holocaust, although they won't acknowledge that the first happened. Hamas uses human shields to protect their weapons of terror. They are not protesting occupation. Israel pulled completely out of the Gaza Strip, including uprooting more than 10,000 of their own citizens from their home nearly 10 years ago. Hamas last decade to build a complex terrorist infrastructure, including tunnels designed solely to kill as many Israelis as possible. The U.S. should not be pressuring Israel to give Hamas breathing room. The complete defeat of Hamas and the dismantling of their terrorist infrastructure will be good for Israel's security and will be a decisive blow against international terrorism and the global jihad, which is good for our national security. We need to stand with Israel at this critical juncture. I yield.
DeSantis in Congress like 8 or 10 years ago. Yeah, he was a congressman. He has been to Washington. He knows how this clown show works, okay? And he has been firmly saying accurately that Hamas, this terrorist organization funded by Iran, wants to destroy Israel, okay? And they do. And do you believe them now? I mean, is this attack that's killed, how many people is it up to? I mean, this is just absolutely crazy. It's so sad. Look at this. 800 plus killed now. 2,000 plus wounded. USA sends warships and jets. Hamas rockets breach dome. Look, this is now the world we live in. Okay? And there was actually just a piece written in The Hill just 2 days ago, 2 days before this, talking about how terrorist attacks change the course of presidential races and change the course. Now, of course, this is when I saw Ronna McDaniel going, well, I'm not, look, I'm actually going to try not to be too critical of other people anymore. But listen to people and they tell you who they really are. And is this really the reaction that you want? Oh, look, she's replied to RFK being a running. And there she goes. She's going after RFK Jr. Look at this. Look at this. Hold on. That didn't take long. All right. So here is Ronna McDaniel responding to RFK Jr. running for president. Chairman of the GOP. Today, the Republican National Committee Chairwoman, Ronna McDaniel, released the following statement on RFK Jr.'s announcement to campaign as a, quote, independent candidate. Make no mistake, a Democrat in independence clothing is still a Democrat. What a lie. She doesn't understand this at all, okay? Kennedy knows the Constitution, all right? Trump doesn't. RFK Jr. cannot hide from his record of endorsing Hillary, supporting the Green New Deal, blah, blah, blah. America does get right back on track, blah, blah, blah. Look, Ronna McDaniel, if you're stupid enough to make Trump the nominee, then this Kennedy's candidacy is going to be a problem. All right. So but the first, you know what's really interesting? The first reaction of the GOP proves exactly what Kennedy was talking about. This constantly being at each other's throats. The first reaction is to attack. You've supported Hillary. You did that. You supported, there's no, hey, look. Oh, yeah, by the way, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. wrote this book, Ronna. Maybe you should read it. It's called The Real Anthony Fauci, Bill Gates, Big Pharma, and the Global War on Democracy and Public Health. Okay? RFK Jr. wrote the foreword to Dr. Joe Ladapo's book, who is Florida Surgeon General, appointed by DeSantis. All right. I doubt Ronna, triple vaccinated McDonald, has read this. Okay. Operation Warp Speed was great. Oh, yay. It was just so wonderful. A virus comes, and what does Trump want to do? Hide, everybody. Everybody hide. I'm listening to Dr. Fauci. He's going to tell us what to do. Well, Kennedy put this out. Read this book. You wouldn't believe what's in this book about Trump, about the kind of stuff he tried to do. Letting Fauci, the biggest one is letting Fauci use his podium to promote the vaccine and remdesivir, okay? After he knew how dangerous remdesivir was. Trump didn't have to give him that podium and he was using that podium to manipulate and to push drugs that were dangerous to enrich himself, okay? And Trump couldn't see that. That White House briefing room had become a marketing tool, the best marketing tool in the world for Dr. Fauci and his cohorts. And Trump couldn't see that, okay? So I would take Robert F. Kennedy Jr. over Trump every day of the week. If Trump's the nominee, I'm voting RFK Jr. 100%. That's not even like that's not even a thought. Kennedy has more values in his left fingertip than Trump has in his giant orange body. And Kennedy has values. Kennedy knows the Constitution. Trump's never read the Constitution. So, her first, she's, bashing Kennedy. That's her first impulse is to do exactly what he said that people were doing. And in the different parties were doing. And here's one more clip I want to play for you. This is DeSantis saying that he will use the Department of Justice to go after Soros prosecutors that are refusing to enforce the law, rogue prosecutors, to remove them. Because what happens is George Soros and his son, Scott Evil, okay, I call, Alexander Soros is really Scott Evil, all right? So now he's handing the evil empire over to his son, Scott, who's even more evil than he ever was, because do they ever get better? No, they get more evil. He's like, I will take my father's empire and make it even more evil. I will make it the most evil empire you have ever seen. Yeah, that's so. But he's this little dweeb. He's this little dork. Okay. Has anybody ever seen Alexander Soros? All right, there he is. Okay. All right, that's Alexander Soros. Okay, that's Soros' son. All right. Okay, and he wears these big goofy glasses around. All right. So what they do, they're bazillionaires. They made money just not in a very good way, breaking the Bank of England. Look back to how Soros made his money. So what they do is they prop up some prosecutor to run for prosecutor in a big city. We had three of them in Florida. We still have one, but we had two other ones that DeSantis removed. And San Francisco had one, but they kicked her out. And different places, they have these prosecutors that Soros gives money to, so they buy the election, all right? And then what they do when they get in office is they refuse to prosecute crimes. They refuse to prosecute. They let people that steal and do all these things, they let them go. They come back in. Every city has like criminals, and you know who the criminals are, okay? Unless new ones come in, but you know who they are because they're arrested over and over and over and over again, okay? So what these prosecutors will do is fail to prosecute crimes, and like serious crimes like rape, theft, things like that. And it creates a horrible situation in that area, all right? So DeSantis says that he is going to be using the power of the federal government to remove these prosecutors as president. Okay? Check this out.
Cities. Secondly, can you elaborate more on that? And secondly, can you tell us if what you've done in Florida for law enforcement, enticing them, giving bonuses, can that be done at a federal level?
Well, a couple things. So, I think because you actually have red states that have some of these crazy cities, and they go haywire. And then you have blue states that have red jurisdictions that do fine. Everyone has a right to live in a society in which the rule of law prevails. I think it's the Republican form of government clause in the Constitution, I think, gives the federal government the ability to ensure that. We're going to use the Department of Justice.
Wow. Do you see what he just said there? Do you guys see what he just said there? Because you don't hear this very often. And I know it's not sexy. It's not salacious. It's not controversial. There's not going to be any ways to grift off of it. But there's this thing called the Constitution. And it's where we derive all of our laws from. Yes, it has been eroded over the years on purpose, but we still have it. It's still there. But do you ever hear Trump quoting the Constitution with anything he says he wants to do? No, he thinks that he can just write an executive order or put out a tweet, and then everything's just gonna be just right as rain. I don't even think Trump has read the Constitution, and I'm dead serious about that. Has anybody ever asked Trump if he's read the Constitution? I don't think he's ever been asked that. I've never heard him talk about it. He doesn't talk about the Constitution. He talks about himself, and he talks about wanting to do this and do that. And when he got in office, he did a lot of this stuff through executive order, which is why it all just fell apart like dominoes. Remember Biden with that giant stack of executive orders that he was undoing everything Trump did? It was that easy. Done. Keystone Pipeline done. Wall done. All this stuff done. Immigration thing done. Because Trump didn't do anything. He didn't know how to work within the system. and work within the constitutional system that we have. See, DeSantis is like, he's not just like, oh, I'm going to be a dictator and remove anybody that I don't like, because he knows he can't do that, okay? Because if you try stuff like that, you don't get to be a dictator as governor or president, okay? You have people that are also in elected office that are fighting back all the time against you, and they have the media behind them. So you have to be smart with how you do things, okay? So DeSantis is saying here that the Republican government clause of the Constitution is what gives him power. Well, Chris, what's the Republican government clause? Well, I'm glad that you asked. It is Article 4, Section 2 of the United States Constitution. Oh, don't tell me I'm losing internet. I don't get this. I'm never switching internets or I'm never doing anything ever again, ever. Okay, so the Republican Government Clause of the Constitution, also known as the Guaranteed Clause generally, here, let's go to it. This clause of the Constitution says the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a Republican form of government. Oh, wow. How about that? We're not a democracy. Go figure. Oh, so it says it right in the Constitution. And shall protect each of them against invasion and on application to the legislator or the executive when the legislator cannot be convened against domestic violence. Okay? And that's any kind of invasion like what happened over in Israel. When you have people, when you're being attacked. Okay? So if you're talking domestic violence, I mean, you talk about what's happening in these cities where the violence is coming domestically into people's homes. That's what that means. Okay? And coming from the outside. And it's not, and coming into their businesses. And the federal government is refusing to do anything about it. And Trump didn't do this either, okay? Trump thought tweeting law and order over and over again was going to take care of it. But it didn't, not surprisingly. So DeSantis is saying that his powers, because he actually has read the Constitution and knows this is there. Trump clearly couldn't read this one paragraph and realize it was there. And I get the feeling Trump was just, I know, he's just surrounded by grifters. That it didn't make sense it didn't make sense for them to succeed, because succeeding would not help them really, because they're grifting, and grifters always need to have some kind of struggle or some problem. That's why the grifters are going to run from Kennedy, okay? They're going to say, how can I grift off this, okay? And if they can't grift off it or make any money for themselves or enrich themselves in any way, then they're not going to have anything to do with it or that person, okay? That's a lot of the reason why you have people like DC Drano who don't really like DeSantis all of a sudden, because they're not like, they're not going, oh, gee, can I do the right thing? And look, I'm not going to criticize them anymore because they're just doing what they're doing, okay? They make a lot more money than I do. They live in nicer houses than me. All right, great. All right? And sometimes it's like you just be grateful. Sheesh, be grateful for what you have. But the thing is with people, you got to look at what their motivations are before you listen to them. Just when you're listening to people, don't just go, okay, this guy's an authority on everything. Why? Because people told me he is. Oh, he's Bannon. You got to listen to Bannon. That's the last person you should listen to. Tim Pool, same thing. These are the last guys. By the way, the Israel situation and this war is going to reveal a lot of what a lot of these big personalities with podcasts really do feel on the Israel subject. And you got to ask yourself, who do you really stand with? Do you stand with God's people? Do you stand with against surprise attacks like that? Even if they're not, even if this happened to Spain, if this happened to another country. But it's very important to know that this is a conflict that goes way back, and why they're being targeted. It's not just an ordinary land dispute. So, okay, so back to what DeSantis said, because see, he knows that he can't just remove a Soros-funded prosecutor as president from San Francisco, and because it has to survive the muster of the legal system, because he's immediately going to be challenged on it, like he was when he removed these guys here in Florida. All right. Okay, so let's play the rest of his comments.
To go after some of these rogue prosecutors who are causing people to die by not enforcing the law. I mean, you see some of the worst crimes happen, and then they go back and they say, oh, they were arrested 12 times and nobody ever held them accountable. They just put them right back on the street. So we're going to be very aggressive on that. We understand how important it is. And look, some of these cities that are doing so poorly, it's not like these are big vote areas for Republicans, right? Baltimore, Philadelphia. But you can't have a successful country if every major city in this country is crumbling because of high crime. And the thing is, this is shooting ourselves in the foot by allowing that to happen. This didn't just happen. This is a direct result of the bad policies.
And how about that? What an answer. Okay? That, look, we can't have a country when you have the massive cities that are completely crime ridden, and you have people that can just walk in with giant shopping carts or giant bags, take whatever they want off the shelves, and then just run out, and they can't do anything about it. Starbucks is closing. Targets are closing. All these stores are getting out of these areas because they can't afford to operate. Go figure, legalizing shoplifting didn't really help. And they're like, it's not legalizing shoplifting. Well, yes, it is. When you have a prosecutor, and imagine living in one of these cities. By the way, a lot of these places have a high population of black people. And do you think that most black people want crime just going on all around them? No, they don't. All right. So what DeSantis is saying he's going to do, I get it that Trump hangs out with rappers and he pardons them, if you know, the rich rappers, and some of them really think he's funny now, and they really like him now. I get that. But what DeSantis, but he let a lot of their cities burn down, but okay, when he was president. But you know, what DeSantis is saying that he's going to do is, as president, he's going to do what he did here in Florida. He removed Monique Worrell and replaced her with a judge that would uphold the law. He removed another black judge too. Okay, one that would uphold the law. He removed Andrew Warren, the guy that ordered Rodney Howard Brown to be arrested during the lockdown, during the COVID, whatever. I mean, lockdown. There was no real lockdown. I mean, you had orders, and this is for all the states. I mean, you can't in America order people to stay in their homes like under threat of arrest. You can't. The Constitution doesn't allow for it. You can in other countries. So, but Andrew Warren, he replaced him with somebody else. So what DeSantis is saying here, and this is so important, is that as president, he's going to wield his authority under the Constitution and remove prosecutors in these cities that are put there by George Soros, a lot of times funded by PACs that are by Juan George Soros. They run on a platform of reform and reforming criminals and stuff like that. And then they get in there and they won't prosecute crimes. So then these cities are at the mercy of criminals. So as president, even though these aren't, as he said, Republican strongholds exactly, he's going to care enough as president to act and to remove prosecutors that are refusing to uphold the law. So, all right, let's get some music here. All right, guys, I'm going to do a space at 3 o'clock to talk about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. getting into the race. Join if you'd like. like, subscribe, and share. I should have told everybody to share at the beginning. But if you like this stuff, like it, share it, spread the word. Music is good for the soul. It really is. More power to you, RFK, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Get in that race. You do it. Get in the race as an independent. God bless you. But I haven't heard what he said on Israel yet. If he doesn't come out strong in favor of Israel, it's going to be a problem. We're seeing on the world stage right now who is going to be strong enough and have enough energy to handle this situation. I mean, Kennedy's getting older too. Who's young? Who has the energy? Who has a view of the situation? I mean, it's Ron DeSantis. But I'm all for Kennedy entering the race. I'm not going to say stupid things to belittle him either. Oh, gee, he doesn't have a chance. Oh, gee. I've talked to Del Bigtree before. Who's running his campaign, these guys, you know? Dennis Kucinich, it's funny seeing him again. He's such a funny little guy. But he was a longtime Democrat congressman. But we need civility back. I'm telling you, Kennedy's message is going to appeal to a lot of people. He's got the populist thing going. Trump had the populist thing in 2016. He doesn't have it anymore. A lot of these guys that are going to vote for Kennedy are people that voted for Trump thinking that he was going to change something. Yeah. And they're not going to vote for Trump if he's the nominee this time. All right. See you next time.